Hello Internet, it's me, Rants, and this is going to be another sick in bed review because a significant chunk of my life lately has been feeling like garbage or being about this close to feeling like garbage. But I didn't want to get super behind on the Orville again, so here we are. We're going to do a brief spoiler-free review of the Orville Season 2 episode Sanctuary, and I'll just be giving you my brief spoiler-free opinion on the episode and then talking about some highlights. I'm not going to worry too much about an in-depth plot summary on this one because it's recent enough that I think most of you have already just seen it. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about it. As you can see, I also chopped off most of my hair. I know that I will miss the purple hair as well, and I'm sure some of you will too, but honestly, I just don't have time for that anymore. I don't have time to wait for 3 hours for my hair to dry. I don't have time to brush it multiple times a day because it constantly gets tangled. And while I was really nervous about chopping off all my hair, I kind of love it, so I don't anticipate growing it out anytime soon. I feel like it's really cute, it's much more manageable, and it's nice and flippy now, and I spend less money on hair products, and I hate spending money. So that's where I'm at right now, and if you have negative comments about my hair, please keep them to yourself, because otherwise I'm just going to ignore you. Okay. So let's talk about this episode. First, I'll give you my spoiler-free opinion, and then I will give you a spoiler warning before talking about some of the highlights of the episode in detail. So, overall, this was a pretty good episode, and while this episode was rooted in an alien species that we have probably seen a little too much of this season, I do think it was one of the stronger overall episodes that we've gotten for these plot lines. I think that it told an interesting story. I think it was pretty salient for what's been going on lately in terms of the political sphere of things. I thought that the writing was pretty good, and there were definitely some moments that really felt very much like Star Trek in the best way possible. I felt like this episode really helped solidify some of the moral cores of this series, and honestly, I was pretty impressed with it. I don't think it's my favorite episode. I don't think it was like an amazing episode that blew me out of the water, but there were definitely a lot of things to like about it, and I wouldn't say that I was disappointed or unhappy really with anything overall in this episode. I just think that maybe they could start moving on to some newer territory, but I do at the same time also appreciate how in-depth they've decided to explore this one particular culture. So overall, I'd give this episode like a 7 or 8 out of 10. Not amazing, but pretty damn good. Pretty enjoyable. And that's probably most of what I can say without spoiling it, so let's talk about some highlights. Basically, this episode is about a Moclan couple fleeing Moclus with a baby girl because they want to avoid the gender reassignment surgery that impacted Topa.
Commander, I know of your trial. I know you understand what is happening here. The transport ship is only a few hours away. All we ask is that you stay silent until we leave.
We see some classroom shenanigans with Topa.
Come on, get your own.
Where it's revealed that he has absorbed a lot of the sexist teachings from Clyden and is being rude to his female classmates. We get a cameo from Marina Syrtos, who played Deanna Troi in TNG, and I loved seeing her. I especially loved that she got to have just her nice normal accent instead of the Beta Z accent, which ended up not canonically applying to any other Beta Z characters. I still feel bad for her about that, to be honest. And it was nice seeing her again, and it just continues to make me feel like the Orville really is the spiritual successor of Star Trek. And while I'm not caught up on Discovery, and I know they've been doing some better things, I'm just not as incentivized. Like, I'll catch up on it when I'm out of the Orville, and I will make reviews on it at that point. but I'm not going to try to keep up with it anymore, like I said in my last video. So sorry if you've been looking forward to that. It will happen, but not for a while. Okay, and basically what happens is Bortus discovers that they're hiding the baby female Mochlin. They tell him that they're planning to flee to a planet that has offered them asylum, so he conceals it from the captain. But he does bring Topa to see the female baby while he doesn't tell Topa the truth of his origins. And Clyden rats them out, but only after they have left the ship. And the Orville tracks them down and finds a colony full of female Mochlins who have escaped in sort of an underground railroad to avoid persecution. The captain does convince them to try and become a sort of their own established planet and like a member of the Union.
Let me suggest an alternative. Let us go to Union Central and submit an application for recognition as an independent state. If the Union Council agrees, you will be under its protection, and you won't have to hide anymore.
But the Mochlins are extremely opposed to this, and it turns into a whole political kerfuffle. They find them, they try to capture them and reassign their gender before Ed and Admiral Halsey and a few other people finally talk them into sort of a compromise where they're allowed to exist, but no longer allowed to help people immigrate from Moklis there. And we get to see the female Mochlin from the episode About a Girl. She gives testimony before the Union, as well as an incredibly enthusiastic devotion to Dolly Parton.
Working 9 to 5 for service and devotion. You would think that I would deserve a fair promotion. Want to move ahead, but the boss won't seem to let me. I swear sometimes that man is out to get me.
Who is the voice of their revolution. I think that was one of my favorite parts of the episode. It was so cute. And Dolly Parton's kind of one of those guilty pleasure artists that I like. I sort of love her music. I sort of love her general vibe. And I'm only moderately ashamed of it. So I thought that that was a great little pop culture reference to have in the series. I thought that it was totally charming. And it was one of those things that really reminds me just how much I love the Orville and why I love the Orville so much. Because this episode was one that really balanced some very intense moral questions and drama with just a little bit of comedy to keep it going. Bortus and Kelly go down to the female Mochlin colony to defend them from the male Mochlins, and Bortus is such a feminist icon in this episode. He, calls out Clyden for being dismissive of Kelly and other female crew members, and he really calls Clyden out explicitly on his bigotry and his sexism. And while I am starting to get tired of constantly revisiting the Mochlins and their misogynistic values, I think that it's important. And I do like that they try to explore a new dimension of it every time that they go back to it. So we had the kind of decently executed allegory for homophobia with the interspecies dating with Tala and the Mochlin engineer, and we've had more in-depth examinations of the differences between Bortus and Clyden. But here, I think it all kind of comes to a really important head where we see that this marriage is not going to work if Bortus and Clyden can't learn to understand each other better, and if Clyden can't move past the limitations of his culture. And I think they did a really good job of illustrating that leaning back on culture as an excuse for bigotry is not acceptable. It does not change the impacts of the bigotry. It doesn't change the fact that it's wrong. And it struggles a lot with the nature of cultural relativism and how that impacts an organization like the Union, which has to listen to the voices of many different cultures and try to make everyone comfortable enough joining them for common goals. So there was a ton of nuance packed into this episode. I think a lot of it was very well executed, and again, while I'm starting to get sick of these Mochlin-heavy episodes, even though I love the Mochlins, I think that it made an important point, and it was done well enough that I really didn't mind it much. I think that it has a lot going for it. I don't know if there's much that I would change about this episode, but I just think at this point it's not really fresh enough to really cement itself higher in the season in terms of episodes that I really enjoyed. When the season's over, I might actually try to make like a ranked list of all the episodes this season, and maybe even for season 1 for which ones are my favorites, because I think there are definitely some particularly strong and particularly weak episodes in both seasons. Overall, though, The Orville is an amazing and quality show. I am loving what they are doing this season, and I think that now that they've finally hit their stride, we're just getting quality episode after quality episode. And I really love the ones where they take tropes and ideas that we've seen before a lot, and they kind of turn them on their head and do something different with it. So I'm excited to see more of The Orville, although I'm also going to be relieved when we're done this season, because keeping up with it has been so hard, because I'm just a wreck. I'm just a wreck. I feel like I'm barely hanging on some days, and I know that you guys are really nice about it when I don't get my videos out in time. You have all been so great about not making me feel pressured or like I'm letting you down. But I still put that pressure on myself. So it's been stressful, and I am excited for when I can just go back to making videos whenever I feel like it. I do want to start making some more political videos again, because I think those are important as well, but I just have not had any energy lately. I have zero energy basically ever now. But I'm working on it. I'm trying to get better. And hopefully I will start to do better soon. I'm almost finished with my first year of law school, and while I am taking summer classes, I am only taking one summer class, and I think the lighter load will be a lot more manageable, so hopefully I will be able to get some more content out. So that is all I have for you for now. I would love to know what you thought about this episode. Are you still excited for more Mocklin episodes, or are you kind of ready to move on to something else? What do you think were the strongest and weakest points of this episode? Let me know in the comment section down below. If you like my videos, subscribe. If you don't, I'm sure that you will tell me. See you next time. Wiedersehen. Borders is a feminist icon!